Welcome to the Romeo Planning Commission meeting for October 5th, 2024. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Cindy, roll call.
Chairman, I think, did I put the 5th on there? It's the 3rd today.
October 3rd.
It's October 3rd.
On the agenda?
Oh, no, you
No.
didn't put it on there. I didn't
Okay.
have my glasses on
All right,
when I
well,
started
it's the
reading.
3rd.
It says
But
third.
now I
It
have-
says the third at the top.
It does.
Yeah, you did it right, I did it wrong.
Okay,
Glasses.
thank you.
All right,
Stegner,
here.
Webb,
Here.
Minton,
Here.
Fowler. Here. Parker, Justin,
Present.
and I have, and Hale.
Here.
And excused, I have Bill Parker, Lisa Hall, and Bill Grandstaff.
All right, item 3, we move on to approval of the agenda.
Motion.
We all in favor of that?
Aye.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Motion before us is to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Number 4, approval of the meeting minutes from September 5, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion before us is to approve the meeting minutes from September. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, Cindy. Okay, move on to unfinished business, short-term, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I
No
forgot
report.
5.
No report.
No report from our ex officio. Okay, unfinished business, item number 1, short-term rental discussion. Do you have anything to say, Karen?
I know earlier this year, short-term rentals were brought up. There's been some state legislation kind of getting brought up, occasionally. It hasn't really gone anywhere, but the thinking is,
Do you mind, just so the recording and the video can hear it? I'm sorry.
it's okay. The planning commission
They can't
was
hear her.
discussing short-term rentals. Bills have been brought up, over the last few years in the state, trying to, possibly, provide some state regulation for short-term rentals. Things haven't really gone very far, but whenever this comes up, communities start examining their ordinances and wondering, oh, do we have any regulations? How do we want to approach such a use? Currently, Romeo doesn't have anything specifically for short-term rentals, as in Airbnbs or VBROs. You guys do have bed and breakfast regulations. And so I guess because a moratorium was placed on these items, I believe, late spring, early summer, I'm wondering what is the intention? Where does the Plan Commission, what would they like to explore for these 2 items if they're thinking about either providing regulations for them or modifying the regulations that are currently on in the zoning ordinance for bed and breakfasts? So I guess I was just curious, where are we going with that?
So we have nothing for short-term rentals, but we have something for bed and breakfasts.
Correct, which are 2 separate.
Right, 2 separate entities. So we're good with the bed and breakfasts, the short-term rentals, with having no ordinance, then there'd be no short-term rentals. Or could they say there's no ordinance?
Well, you could, right now, I would say because you guys don't have regulations, if someone approached the village and said, I would like to start one, what would you guys need? All we could say is like, we don't have any regulations for it. So you can interpret that it's prohibited, but at the same time, if we believe that they're happening in the village, is there a way that we do want to regulate it? Or do you want to have express language that says they're not allowed? I guess which way does the community want to go on this?
Personally, I'd like to see no short-term rentals in the village of Romeo. That's my opinion. I mean, this one has, like your sample, this is just sample, I get it, but the 15 registered, 2 registered by this, I mean, again, we're picking and choosing who can have short-term rentals, right, based on first 15 in line, maybe, or however it would work. I'd rather have it either all or nothing, you know, is how I kind of approach it, and personally, I say no to short-term rentals. Bed and breakfasts, we can have bed and breakfasts, we're a small village, but we don't need to turn Romeo into a short-term rental, VRBO, fly-by, hangout kind of area. That's my personal opinion.
Anyone else? Mr. Hale?
I don't disagree with that at all. I think we should have flat-out rental inspections, but that's just me. If we're gonna talk going short-term rental inspections, I think we should inspect all rentals, but, no, I mean, I'm not in favor of it either.
Is anybody in favor of it? Anybody indifferent to it?
I can't, yeah, I'm gonna agree. I guess the argument that I've heard brought up would, what's the difference between in your opinion, a short term and a long term? If someone wants to rent, what defines a short term?
31 days.
Right here?
31 days, right? So if someone wants to rent a house for 2 months, that's okay, but not 1 month?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna more than likely be here, a little more invested. It's gonna be a little odder to rent it for 2 months, 6 months at a time, you know, versus someone coming in for 30 days out of town and maybe
Or are we more concerned about the weekend?
the weekend warrior stuff, and
Yeah.
I'd
the
be more
Airbnb,
concerned
the
with
weekend,
yeah.
rent it for a long weekend or whatever.
empty
I mean-
homes that are rentals, VRBOs, because people can't, you know, I can't sell this house, so I can turn it into a VRBO, and now we got rentals left and right in the village, and that, I don't see it being a huge problem, especially if you were to limit it, but then it goes back to we're limiting it, and I don't like limiting.
Are there empty houses left and right in Romeo?
There's a handful of
There's a handful.
Airbnbs right now, I believe, or whatever site they use. I'd say there's a handful. Cindy, you'd know better than me, 4 or 5
Yeah, I would say so.
right now.
So
That
not
are
too
currently
many.
operating, but you do hear the complaints.
It's just, not that there's a handful, just looking long-term, it could turn into
Yeah.
something we don't want it to turn into.
Right.
And for me, it's just easier to say, no, we're not doing that. Bed and breakfasts, that's what a village is designed for, some bed and breakfasts, some nice event centers, some restaurants, some, you know, you're coming and having a good chill time. You wanna,
I suppose for me, I'd have to understand what the difference between a bed and breakfast and
Yeah,
a
that's-
short-term rental is.
Bed and breakfast has on-site staff.
On-site,
what?
on-site staff and food is provided without an additional charge to what you're paying for your room.
Is that defined in our ordinance or just at the state
The
level?
state level. They define number of bedrooms and what is, and basically, with the difference between bed and breakfast and a straight-up hotel, according to the state, is there's food provided and you're not charging extra for that food.
Food, or it could be a dinner.
Could be a dinner, could be a breakfast, but you're providing food you're providing meals to your guests, and you're not charging for those meals. It's all included in the package.
I don't know if it's still current, but when I looked at it years ago, there was, in that ordinance from the state, it said that there should be no other money exchanged, like gift shop or something on your way out, nothing. It's supposed to be strictly bed, breakfast, and serve the food, no other things. The other thing, when you're talking about short-term rental, you know, when you look in an ordinance and it shows permitted uses and non-permitted uses, and it's not, that means it's not permitted. Rental properties are protected. You can rent out a house for a month at a time, a month-to-month lease. It's actually in the state when you're doing month-to-month. So you can rent a house for 30 days, but that's really not looking short-term. I think what you're trying to focus is on the weekend and the weekly ones. Most Airbnbs that I see anywhere, there's a ton of them in South Haven and St. Joe's and those different resort areas. They're usually rented either on a weekend or a week. They very rare somebody's taking a month block on those.
Right.
And that's what I think that you're trying to control is that short-term rental, turn them into Airbnbs,
Rentals must be a month or more.
Yes, sir, yes. And that's the way, you know, people rent houses, when you go to sign, that's what they write.
Yeah,
Like,
the
you go
lease.
to month to month,
Yeah.
and that's state, you can't really stop that
Right.
if somebody's renting a house, but it's not good for a landlord to be changing tenants every month either. It's, usually the month to month plays in after you've signed for 6 months, and after that, we'll go month to month.
Yeah, I've got guys in one of my houses for 10 years, month to month.
Right, that's what I've been doing that for 30 years now, and, you know, I'll give them the first term lease, and all of a sudden, we never even sign them, we just go month to
Exactly,
month
just goes
after
month to
that.
month, yeah.
And that's, but when you're talking about, I think what you're trying to do is come up with an ordinance to control having Airbnbs. And I don't know if the state has anything to say
They
with
do,
that, like,
they
do
don't,
Airbnb.
there's been bills introduced that could possibly take away local regulation, but they haven't gone anywhere. But whenever that happens, at least in the planning world, communities start getting concerned, if we're going to be required to allow these, then let's put our regulations in place now. But that hasn't happened yet. There's no state requirement that says a community has to have Airbnbs. So if the community's approach is we're not interested in regulating them because we're not really interested in, or we're not interested in promoting this use, we could keep it as is, where we don't have language, or if you want, we could have express language that says, short-term rentals are not allowed.
I think we should draft something to that manner.
Okay.
Not allowed, and current has some type of grace period, right? Maybe a year, 6 months?
Do you want to limit it to the residential district?
It would have to, anywhere residential or residential uses are allowed through residential districts, that's what it would be applied to.
So, no short-term rentals in the residential districts. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see, I
Yeah.
mean, because
Well,
it's,
let's
you gotta
just think
block.
about that, because some of the DDA, right, has residential, and some of the office has residential.
But it would be by zoning, or district.
Right, so
Not
either
by
we have to
use.
figure out whether we're doing a blanket thing where just basically short-term residential, or rentals are not allowed, or do we have that as language in each district where there could be residential use? So you're talking CBD, office, in all your, is it R1, R2? Is that how it is? Or RM?
Yeah,
And the manufactured home park too. So we could add language in each of those, or we could come up with basically a blanket ordinance that covers the entire village.
Yeah, because if you did it by zoning, it would get rid of non-conformings doing it in the residential district. So if the whole district, if you say no in the district, if you have something that's commercial in a residential district, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a residential district.
So short-term used for residential.
No, just any residential district within the village. So
Anywhere
in the
where
office
residential
district,
uses are.
in the commercial district, those theoretically, if we don't do
In the office
anything with
district, you
those.
could have a use of something different, and then do short-term rentals?
Well, it depends if we don't limit it. If we could limit that too, we can.
Yeah, if you don't want it anywhere in the village, then, like I said, either we can add language per district in
I don't
each
want to
district's
restrict
thing.
businesses.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to say, tell a business they can't have a short-term tenant in there for,
It'd be for,
business use,
right.
right?
I guess we'll define short-term rental as a overnight stay. We'll draft language that defines what the shorterm rental is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's for lodging purposes.
Yeah,
So those lodging purposes wouldn't be allowed. But, if, yeah.
So what happens, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What happens to the handful that are here?
I think they're given a grace period.
So are they, what happens to them, Karen?
You
If
allow
I
Because
guess-
grace-
if several of these people have come and are running these right now because we have nothing on the books, and then all of a sudden this becomes, our ordinance, then what happens to them?
I guess if it's confirmed that that's what they are, then that that's a use that can't operate anymore.
Okay.
I would allow a grace period, because if they decide they wanna sell it, let them
Yeah.
operate, makes,
Right,
tell them, hey, you just gotta stop tomorrow, because then that could financially burden someone.
We
right.
could have an end date,
Yeah,
July 1, something, depends on when this gets finished.
yeah.
Give it 6
Just
months.
What has the village said about all this?
They have nicely sent it to the planning commission to work with.
They want us to recommend something.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna recommend it, and then they can kick it around.
And
Yeah.
if they don't like it, they
See
send
if
it
they
back.
don't like it, send it back.
Well, but that, the moratorium though, the moratorium was put on, short-term rental. And so,
for a period of time, I think, or was it indefinite?
6 months.
6 months, yeah,
which is, it was put on, in June,
yeah.
so
So you'd have by December to.
they have by December to make a decision.
Or extend. We can always extend that.
So we can get this language in the next meeting, if it's good.
But Karen,
can
is
kick it
that
up
the
to 'em.
same as the, bed and breakfast?
That's what I was told, it was those two items. So for bed and breakfast, is there anything we want to modify in that
'Cause
language?
you can't restrict. You can't tell them you can't, that's allowed by the state. You can't say no bed and breakfast.
Right,
I would like to add in to the language from the state that there has to be live-in staff, right? There has to be staff there.
I think it's already in there.
That's part of the law.
It's in our version?
No, but it's,
That's what I'm
I
saying. I
think
would like
it's
to
in our
add that
version as
into
well.
ours, just to make it clear.
I'm pretty sure we have it in ours.
Is it,
Justin.
I didn't see it?
I think so.
So
I
that's,
think it says one of the rooms has to be.
It
the
can't be good. What did I
residents
bring up?
shall be occupied at all time, and I interpret that as there needs to be a full-time resident there. We could straight up specify that.
Yes.
To make it clearer, there
like
needs to
that.
be a full-time resident on site at all times.
Yeah.
yes,
full-time resident.
resident,
But,
yeah.
you brought up about the Airbnb residential district. You might wanna check, Karen, if you have a residential district, but you got a non-conforming in the residential, is that gonna pertain to that? Cause we have one, where I know they might wanna try it, I already have in court, and it's that one on Denby. One that's got the commercial downstairs, and the second floor was being used, and right now it's stopped, but that's in a
Lafayette,
residential district, but it's currently
Lafayette.
zoned
it's on Lafayette.
as, that little industrial there from back when, Hart Tapping was there and.
Yeah.
So,
You're talking Lafayette,
yes, sir,
not Denby.
not them, yes, sir, Lafayette.
All right.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up, if you're gonna do district, is there a way to make sure even there's a non-conforming in that district, is it still gonna pertain to that? 'Cause I think that's what you're,
I mean, if the language says within the district, it's within the district.
even if it's a non-conforming in a district, it's,
Well,
but then it wouldn't be allowed in industrial anyway. Right now, that one is currently, has been zoned industrial for years, and it's, I'd like to see it
Wow.
come in for a zoning change and bring it into residential.
Its use is industrial, it's not zoned that way.
Right, it's
Yeah.
zoned residential, but it's still being.
Right, it's a non-conforming use,
Non-conforming existing,
and
So
only
that-
part of the building.
right.
Then is that could you Airbnb then multifamily or apartments above downtown?
Well, not if, well, it depends on what we do with each district, right? So we could say whatever we want for each district, or nothing about certain districts.
That's why I just brought that up, because it's,
I guess I was under the impression that the feedback I was getting is we do not want to allow Airbnbs. So that means if we're going to say that, then under permitted uses or, there needs to be language somewhere that says short-term rentals are prohibited. So because we're
Across
not
the board.
saying it's not, there's no vagueness. It's straight up said
Okay.
they're prohibited. So that's
100%
something that we'd have to just
nothing?
do in each individual district where a residential use would be allowed, whether it's apartments in the office district or wherever. That would just be extra language that we'd be modifying per each district in the zoning ordinance.
So you'd even like above like the central business district, those apartments up there, you'd want to block those too?
No, that's what I was saying.
Oh, so you were
I
considering
yeah,
it?
I don't know if I'd be against, personally, I don't see a reason not to allow the rental spaces above down, you know, in downtown.
Like in
And
the
I don't wanna say
central
the
business
DDA
district.
because
No,
there
the central
isn't
business district.
houses in the DDA, right? There's also houses that fall in that.
Well, in CBD, residential uses are a special land use. So if someone wanted to apply for a short-term rental, it would be a special land use, so it'd have that extra layer of scrutiny and they'd have to apply.
But
Someone
if they're
wanted-
already used as a residential house in the CBD, then they could then,
They could be,
Airbnb.
yeah, they could turn into an Airbnb, depending on what you put the short-term rental as. If you guys wanna leave it at a permitted use or a special land use, just depends.
oh, apply for special land use for, in the CBD. I think that would be the only district where it would make sense to not be disturbing the neighborhoods.
Maybe, but then there's neighbors there too. Right?
True.
You got 10 apartments and 2 decide to be VRBOs and you got people
Yeah,
turning
no,
over every
that's a good
weekend.
argument.
Then,
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
you know, it's no different than the guy next door to you turning over every
Yeah,
weekend.
you're not wrong.
Yeah, good argument, thank you.
Just,
Light, it's going off.
you know,
Yeah,
again, it's,
100%.
Yeah,
I think 100%, it's either 100% or nothing.
okay.
Let them go wild wherever they want or say, no, thank you. All right.
So is that where we're at? We wanna have language drafted
Chair?
to look like that?
How do you feel?
You know, there's a few things about this. I own a house, I can't sell it. If I could make money as a Airbnb, why not? You know,
I mean,
and I don't understand what you're saying, that it's an Airbnb, so anybody that rents it is gonna go wild and disturb everybody else. Why should that be the case?
I would argue that you can sell any house in this village at any time.
Yeah, well, you can attempt to.
It's very hard not to sell a house here.
Yeah,
I get offers on mine often. and
Well,
I don't
I'm just
even
saying
list
that I've seen very, not in great shape homes sell immediately.
Yeah.
I've seen homes that burn to the ground sell immediately.
I guess then the argument to making money, well,
times
if I have a
change.
house in the neighborhood and
But then-
I can't sell it, well, can I open up a business in there? Because I need to make money.
No, you
But-
can't.
But then people could
But that is
petition
I
a
mean,
at
business.
that
you can
time.
say Airbnb's a business,
It
it's
is a
a
business.
It is a
specific type
business.
of business, right? You can't burn tires downtown either.
But if times change, 10 years from now, and the market does what it did 10 years ago, 15 years ago now, they can always petition and have it brought back.
Well, that's true.
But that's not now. Houses here sell fast.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're gonna get wild, Jim, I'm just saying you don't.
There's the
you don't-
possibility.
You don't know. And again, it's a business inside of the and I strongly dislike businesses inside of the residential district. We have a business district, places have business set up. I really don't like any businesses in neighborhoods disturbing people. You know, like the bed and breakfast is there, I don't like it, but it's there. And it's allowed, personally, when all the neighbors showed up and they hated it, it's like, okay, here you go. Neighborhood doesn't want it. If the neighborhood doesn't want it, just because Jim wants to make money, I gotta live next door to it.
Yeah, but again, I don't know why you assume that people are gonna be rowdy and have vicious dogs and
I don't know what I'm gonna get.
have guns and stuff. We don't know what you're gonna get in a bed and breakfast either.
Correct.
That's
You know.
also his point.
That's also my point. That's my
Yeah.
point. The bed and breakfast is here. I can't do nothing about it. I'd hate to add more stuff.
But the state regulates bed and breakfast, and we can't supersede the state.
That's
Does the state allow any,
true.
regulation on where a bed and breakfast can be? Can you say you can't have a B and B in a certain zoning?
I think well, if you're having someone living there, it's gotta be residential. It's gotta be in a place, somewhere where, residential use is allowed, cause someone's gonna be living there on site.
Yeah, I mean, can you restrict it to the office district?
You could. I mean, right now, it's currently restricted into your R1 district. So,
Bed and breakfasts are restricted to the R1 district?
let me double check.
I was gonna say, because the Brab House was in an office.
His
district,
office
not-
used as residential, but
But it was still not in the R1 district.
it was not in the R1,
So
no,
maybe it was a special land use?
probably.
Bed and breakfasts are special land uses in R1. Let me double check the others, but.
In the R1 single-family district, subject to the general standards of Article 9 of this chapter.
I'm sorry, you're right. So in the R1, RM office district is where bed and breakfasts are.
Okay,
So,
but it's special land use for the residential district,
for all of them.
for all of them, okay, thank you.
So you can restrict it further to we'll say just office or
I believe so.
RM and office or. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know about the bed and breakfast restrictions, because there's state laws for it, so I'd have to read the law before I wanted to say anything definitively. Again, I read it, but it's been 3 months.
Yeah. Can we table bed and breakfast? I mean, we're gonna see this again, but can we continue this on next month after we've had more time to?
Do we want to see draft language for
Yeah.
no short-term
For
rentals?
short-term rentals, for sure.
Yes.
So draft language prohibiting short-term rentals?
100%.
Okay.
Now, bed and breakfast, I mean, if the neighbor, you know, all those neighbors showed up, if they'd have said, yeah, let's do it, then,
Right, I mean, that's what the
Okay.
special land use is giving you that, it's giving you that layer.
you know, that's what I
And it
like
seemed
to
to work.
see.
Okay.
Because if, you know, if the neighborhood shows up and they don't care, then why do we care, right?
Yeah,
You know, but if the neighborhood shows up and they're like, no, then we should listen to the residents who
but
have to live directly around it, you know?
with the special land use, there's that layer of protection, right? But with short-term rentals, there's nothing.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but how does the special land use work, right? Is it, you don't base your decision solely on the room that filled up unless they bring an argument that shows that the person applying for the special land use has not met one of the criteria.
Correct,
And just because you don't want it,
Correct.
is not, it doesn't meet the criteria.
correct. That's where I think we need to have some language in there about,
Well, for special land use, planning commission has to determine if the use is gonna be harmonious
right,
with the area. So,
Okay.
if the neighborhood's showing up saying this is not gonna be harmonious, that can influence the decision that the planning commission makes, so.
there you go.
that's fair enough, you know? Those are just my thoughts, guys.
No, good.
So there, what, it's 8 points that special land use has to meet?
Bed and breakfast.
I do believe. And it's individually voted on.
That's correct, and if, I believe if one of them fails, then it's a
Yeah,
failure.
They're all
Yeah.
special land
But
uses right now.
if they all pass,
Got it passed?
Yeah.
then it should be granted, right?
But that's why the harmonious rule's in there.
Yeah,
So that should not have passed last time.
You can't have an
based on what we're
ordinance
saying.
that's more
It didn't.
I see
That
what you
one
mean.
did not, that individual
I'll
standard?
have to look into
The second
that.
time, the first time, nobody showed up. No one was
Well, I
gonna,
thought it passed the second time.
no.
That
Two to
one.
fifth, three of them.
Okay. Good.
I'll have to look into that, because if that's the case, then it would need to.
I was just telling you, I think that you cannot have a special sell out, the state allows them. So I remember, there's one I didn't, years ago, and that's been years ago, things could have changed. And Mark Clark was telling us that time of Marion that the state allows it, you cannot stop it.
Yeah, I'll have to read it, I don't,
And
it's been a
that's
bit.
what she wants to read it and check on that.
Okay.
So then
It was years ago, I remember that distinctly, that we couldn't stop it.
Special land use is state controlled, right? That's their rules.
No,
That's,
That's an extra, the special land use automatically adds an extra layer of regulation because there's an extra layer of scrutiny where the planning commission has to determine if it's appropriate.
but you're saying you don't think that we can do that if the state allows bed and breakfast?
she needs to read it. She said
I'll
she
have
would
to
read it.
look at all the state regulations for bed and breakfasts, because if it's possible that things have changed where they must be permitted in a residential use, I'll have to double check that, because a lot of communities have them as special land uses.
I'll read it.
Then we'll have to adjust, but,
Well, then there still has to be some application process that shows that they've met all the qualifications.
Right.
Then that would fall back on the building department, then I would think.
And part of it would-
it'd still
Or-
be a site plan review.
And they still.
Site
would
plan,
have
yeah.
a caretaker, somebody has to live there and they have to meet the criteria, but
Yeah.
I'm just asking that you check to see that you cannot do it with special land use, you know, prohibit it.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out.
So there's a $5,000 bed and breakfast permit fee, application fee?
Yeah, that'd be good. That should,
I mean, you'd cover your expenses, right? You'd have to travel to 5 or 6 bed and breakfasts to make sure you got a right feel for it. Disregard that comment. All right,
Okay, so let's move on to Mr. Vomarito. Would you like to take the mic?
might as well. Okay, hope we could finally have our ordinance in play today for this fence. Everybody has a copy in front of them. On page 3, there's number 8, which says commercial fencing when along a property line shared with residential. That's, yes, that's under the prohibited type of fences. I'd like to see that one passed, that number 8 that's in red that was there before on page 3. The rest of it, I was going through it, and it looks like it was pretty much what we've agreed on in the past.
I have one question for number 4 on page 4.
Let
Under
me
corner
get to there.
lots. This is the one I
Okay.
always read first.
Yep.
It says, the fences may be erected within the exterior and interior side and rear yards along the front building line, not obscuring decorative fences with a height not to exceed 48 inches or 4 feet, are permitted to extend into the front yard on the streets where the home's main entrance is located and on the exterior side yard of the building. So that would mean that privacy fences are not allowed on side yards, if I read that correctly, because
no, hold
the
on.
48 inches are specified.
Yeah.
It's the exterior side yard up to the building line.
To that front
So
corner.
your entire front yard on the
Okay.
corner has to have the non-obscuring.
So it
but
just
once you
can't
get
pass the front of the
past
house.
building line,
Right.
Thank you.
that exterior side can have a privacy.
Awesome.
That's what we
I'm
said the
good.
last meeting, Andrew, I think, and that's.
Yep,
we're
yeah,
all-
because I saw like the graphic shows it, I just was,
Yeah, good question here, though.
I was a little crossed up on that. Okay, got it.
Oh, the other one, I don't know if I didn't see it in here, is where I was talking to Cindy about it. I think there was this, yesterday was the, some of them have a sharp decorative point on top. We wanted to make sure that there was nothing
Dull.
sharp, or chain link turned upside down or something where there's sharp edges on it. I don't know if we had that in there, Karen.
Again, number 7, under service fence type
Okay, let me go back. Right.
Prohibited. Yep.
For razor wire or similar sharp features.
Okay.
There
Yeah,
we
it's-
go.
it's
Principal
carved out.
spikes or similar pointed tops, yeah, to make sure
Can
that was.
you take out, in number 6, take out similar and just say sharp features? Because if you're making it similar to razor wire, right, the
Yeah.
upside, the bottom side of a chain link fence
Sure.
is not razor, but it's still
It's
sharp.
sharp.
So if we eliminate
You cut
similar.
yourself up on it. And there's people I've seen done that before in other communities, believe it or not, to try to keep people, you know, and that's crazy. I have seen it done though. Not in the village though.
I just electrify it, so. Is that in here? No electric fences? I'm joking, it's right above it.
So does pointed tops, that includes like wooden picket fences?
Goes to a point.
Basically,
a
yeah.
sharp
It's
point.
pointed, if it's sharp, if you have a little rounded top, you could still have that, but rounded, not towards to a sharp point.
Just to be clear, yeah.
Yeah,
Something like
yes.
that. Nipped. 25 feet in front of the property, in front of the house. Later, that's right.
I like the graphic, Miss Karen. I'm sure it was fun.
The only other thing I was gonna ask about one more time, and we were discussing it, was, surveys for privacy fences. Again, I'm gonna bring that up again, you know, where people have to get surveys, and the survey costs you like $2,000 and the fence is $1,000, and what it's doing, discouraging people from even trying to do them, and they're bootlegging them here and there because they figure, you know, they figure maybe I can get away with it in the backyard somewhere. And, I wish they would change that ordinance to where you didn't have to do that anymore. I mean, to go back to if you wanted it, you know, maybe a permission from the neighbor or just make them permitted in these areas. But why are we verifying property lines? I've never seen in any community I ever worked in, or I've owned property in several communities that put up fences. No one has ever done that until this past ordinance was passed here a few years ago. And every time somebody comes to me and says they put their fence on my property, I don't get involved. It's a civil issue. If they put it in wrong, it's a civil issue. I got one right now in another community where they just called up and said they pulled a fence permit, but they didn't put it on their property line. They're complaining that it's on the other, you know, going over on theirs. Civil issue, not even getting involved. Somebody's gonna get a surveyor. And that happened here in the village on Gates years ago. There was a fence that put in, and the resident swore that Michigan Fence put it on her property. And then she went and got a survey, sure it was. Sure enough, it was on her property. We didn't get involved at all in it. She got the fence permit. They went in 42nd District there and had it awarded. They had them tear it down and then move it. That's why I don't understand why we're costing people thousands of dollars for surveys for it. If you change that ordinance, I asked Karen, and we could do a little research. My question was, well, what about all the people that had to do it up to now? Does that cause us a liability? No. The ordinance changed. It could change again. We're not, so that's just something I want to throw out there. I just don't see it.
I don't know, if we're gonna have setbacks and requirements of where the fence can be and can't be,
Well, yeah.
why would we not require a survey?
You're not doing it now.
So, I mean,
It has to go on the property line, and you're supposed to verify your own property line.
Right,
Most
page-
municipalities
Do I
do
need a
not.
survey done before I build a new house?
Oh, yeah,
Or
absolutely.
Can't I just verify it myself?
No, not on a house, because there's a lot more involved with setbacks, grades, and every other, there's, you know, when you're doing a house, it's not a fence. You know, a house, that has to go in, it has to come certified. Plus, you have to give me an as-built certificate that that fence went in that location. We just had one go south in the village where we all know about the one that got put in 2 feet over.
so, to what Mike's saying, on page 6, going on to page 7, there's the responsibilities, right, where it talks about needing the survey for only fences above 4 feet tall. You can put wherever you want if they're shorter than that. And then going on to the last three words on that, on page 6, the Village of Romeo shall not be responsible for the enforcement of any agreement between property owners with respect to fences, nor shall the village be responsible for the determination of the location of any fence or the accuracy of the submitted survey. So why do you need a survey if the village doesn't even care if it's accurate?
I don't know why that was put into play. I'm just saying, I've never seen it
So
anywhere
why,
I've ever worked.
why are you requesting, the village just said, hey, we're not responsible for any of this, but you gotta provide a survey. Whether it's accurate or not, we're not responsible for that, but we're gonna ask for one if it's taller than 4 feet. I don't see the merit to asking for money
And
for
why only,
something.
why only over 4 feet? If you're
Right.
gonna do it,
If you're gonna
again,
do it,
back
do
to
it.
the everything or none.
Most fence contractors are gonna check for pins
They,
before they do anything. They're gonna come in for a plot plan, and then they're gonna go.
most do.
I said, you can't say all on anything, I don't believe
No.
it.
And here's, it becomes a civil dispute. Again, if they find and say they found an old iron and they say, I don't care what that iron says, I've seen it happen, it's not right, then go get a survey. We're not getting involved in it.
No, I guess, can I just say, the only pushback I have on that is now, it's the person who, so you're asking the homeowner who now has a fence in their yard that doesn't belong there, now they have to assume the cost of, now
They're
I
gonna
have to hire, I've gotta sue someone, I gotta hire an attorney, and I didn't want the fence there in the first place.
You have to do that,
Because my
yeah,
neighbor put it
right.
up without a survey, so now I have to pay all that out of my pocket if I want it moved off of my land.
And you
If
have-
that, I guess that's my,
Yeah.
the survey just ensures that it's going where it's supposed to go. I mean, that's,
Again, and if it don't, we don't get involved. It's a civil issue.
I can tell you practically, I
that's-
mean, I deal with stuff like this occasionally in my work. I've had surveys come in that have been 2 feet apart on competing surveys like that. And that can't happen. It doesn't make sense. They're measuring from the same pins and they're coming off 2 feet. So I would like to think that if you have a neighbor and they're putting up a fence, you've had a conversation.
Here's the
Because
other
they have to
thing.
pull a permit.
And here's the other thing. We can go back to that language that said when you put a privacy fence in, you have to have permission from that neighbor.
I don't like that.
You don't like that one, so I'm saying it. I'm just throwing some stuff out there because after tonight, whatever we decide is, go. But even if they got
No
that
surveys,
survey
No permit,
and it said
No, you never-
wrong,
no.
right, right.
We're
I
not-
just, I would see, it just feels like you're punishing the person who,
well, they're getting punished
Is-
regardless.
I'm
If
not
they-
asking for the fence to go up. If it goes up and it's wrong, I have to pay for
No, I
that to have it
understand, and
moved. I mean, that's like, that's,
prove it,
I have to
Yeah.
prove that it's
and you've
something wrong,
permitted
like
it,
that's-
you've inspected it for
No,
structure, for whatever,
Structure, yeah, but we
holes or whatever.
don't, we don't verify
We went through all
property line.
that, you're saying it's okay for us, and then walking away and neighbors now, hey, wait, that's my
Cost me 10
lily
grand to
garden,
hire an
or
attorney
whatever.
Right. Everybody's not the same. I know exactly where all my pins are. And I get that
right.
I'm one of those people that knows where all my pins are.
Yes.
But I mean, I would encourage everybody
If
to
you-
know exactly where your
Right.
property lines are.
And if they put it pin to pin, that pin off or whatever, say they put it off, we won't get involved. I mean, you're still gonna be civil on your own anyway. Nobody gets involved in fences, When there's a dispute there, it's always a civil issue. And I've seen a lot of complaints in a lot of municipalities for years where somebody tore the fence down. Well, that was my fence. Well, you shouldn't have tore that down. That belonged to me. And they go, the cities don't get involved.
Ms. Cindy, as the person who receives these permits, do you believe that the survey's been prohibitive over the last number of years? Are people coming in and saying, never mind?
A lot of people are, yeah, because they decide to put a shorter one, so they don't have to, So they say if by the time we hire a surveyor and hire a, contractor to do it, before they even get started on it, it's already a couple $1,000.
Absolutely.
Before they even go purchase the material for it. So, yeah, it's a very expensive thing to put a privacy fence up in the village.
Yeah.
Would the village entertain the option of getting a sign off from the neighbor, and if you can't, then provide the mortgage survey?
Not a mortgage survey.
Mortgage.
A
This is a
survey.
survey
Yeah,
online.
it's an actual,
I got mine.
If they put a 4-foot
we
fence
got
up
it.
right now, and we don't ask
survey.
for it. Right now, we don't.
But if they got the
It's only
neighbor
for a
sign off,
privacy
they don't
fence.
need to provide
for privacy.
additional stuff, it's already numbered,
like that.
some kind of agreement, if we're making like this, if they're unable to get that, then maybe the extra step would be needed. I
Well-
don't think
Protect.
that would help any
I know, I'm glad that
I'd have to get
language,
sign off from 5 people if I wanted to put a privacy fence on my backyard. One being a business, but.
But then you could get a survey instead if you didn't want to
Yeah.
do that option, right?
Right.
You
It's
could-
either-
You could just provide a survey?
but if you put a 4-foot, you don't need nothing. You just put it up, and you could have a 4-foot privacy, and it could come right down. It's the same problem, Janice,
So
where they're on your property.
if we're not getting involved,
Right.
it's a civil issue. What's the difference between a 4-foot and a 6-foot?
That's what
The
I'm,
placement is the only issue with having a survey. Why does it matter if it's 4-foot or 6-foot at that point then? If we're not saying we don't need to sign off from the neighbor anymore.
Right?
that's what, the ordinance is written that way right now. You put a 4-foot fence, and I don't have to have a survey or a
Okay, so
permit.
why at all?
It's that
If
whole
we're,
thing.
if
That's
we're
what
not
I'm-
getting involved, it should
that's
be,
what I'm
it's
asking.
either all or none.
That's what I think he's saying.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
what he's saying.
And what I am happy about, the one that they did put there was this
All or
on
none.
number 8, where you
Take a
can't
vote.
put a commercial fence against a residential.
Right.
That is,
So no permit, no
unfortunately, we
survey?
had one happen.
I like that idea.
Permit, yes. No
So,
survey.
are we trying to fix this? Or not, I shouldn't say fix it. Are we trying to change this?
The board would have to, I think the board would have to be involved in making that change. I don't know, but
Well, it goes to them after us anyway.
I think so.
We just recommend things.
Right. And that's, I'm just throwing it out there. That was never done here in the past ever. And like, if I put I'm not gonna I'm gonna put a 4-foot privacy, 4-foot privacy.
Well, I
It's
mean,
4 foot.
It's just a
I don't
4-foot
have to
flat
get
fence.
that, spend $2,000 on a survey. I have so many people complain, oh my God, it's been there forever. I took my chain link down and I wanna put my privacy. Well, you gotta give me a survey now.
So put a 4 on top of a 4.
Well, you could, but then you're over the 4-foot
Oh,
height.
it's just 2 4-foot fences.
Yeah, I know, then I'm gonna make them tear it down.
That's his height greater than 4 feet, not 4 feet from the ground.
Yeah.
It's just 4 feet.
Yeah.
48 inches.
Oh, here's the other one I
Not
get
from grade. Good
from
point.
grade. Now you get grade.
Doesn't say
What
that.
Doesn't
happens?
say that, Mike.
Okay, let me ask you this one now. What happens when I'm standing here and there's a
Oh, yeah.
retaining wall and it's grade and it's their property, they put it 6 foot, but over here it's 10 foot up in there. I've had that complaint before.
There's
Had to
one.
walk out on one with Marion years ago, and we established that, this is their property, this is their grade, I'm in their yard, and it goes a 6 foot from there.
Yeah. I was
know.
looking at one in Clinton where their whole yard's built up to the house. So if you're standing on the patio, you can just see all the way out. But if you go down the fence, it's here. Because it's wherever the grade is.
It's an effective fence.
It's pretty funny.
Bringing more dirt.
I'm just throwing it out there, I think that it's ridiculous myself, because people come in there all the time, as soon as I tell them, you gotta get a survey, and they say, well, I've already got a fence there. I just wanna make it a privacy now. Sorry, according to ordinance, I gotta have that survey. And then they try to give them the name of a few surveyors that are, I said, price them all and see who comes in the most feasible, and they're not happy about it, so,
How
but I
long
mean,
ago was that put in the ordinance? Do you know when that was put in? I'm just wondering if that was a way to discourage people from
Several years ago.
putting up privacy fences altogether, like to say, well, just,
Long
just
time
my
ago.
thought. Just wonder how long it's been on the books.
Several years ago.
10?
Well, they put it in for some reason. We don't like it now, so.
I mean, are we trying to take it out or not?
Remove surveys. Yay, nay,
Who's in favor of taking it out?
no surveys.
3.
Carl, you want a survey for, okay.
Yeah,
Opposed?
yeah,
No surveys.
no survey.
Can we eliminate no surveys?
I mean, can we, I know you don't like
So
doing
you
this.
guys want to remove the language requesting a survey?
So pretty much everything before the village of.
for privacy fences is the only thing it pertains to.
Yeah, but they still at the, building department level to get a permit need a site plan.
Absolutely.
You're still
Well,
providing
I-
a drawing or something to show where it's going.
I always ask for, show me where it's going.
Right.
If they can't
Okay.
provide me a mortgage survey,
They have
try
to
to at
show
least
that.
get something from Google and tell them, now listen,
Right.
you realize these are not accurate. But most of them that come in, there's already been a fence somewhere around.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
except like in the situation where we had
There's
on,
fences, there's always.
We typically don't highlight Denise where they're,
Right.
on there.
I love it.
Yeah, where you're gonna put this
Yeah,
fence.
so that way you're
Yeah.
at least,
Now, if
we're
they would-
covered there, so, yeah, then,
If
okay.
they would've put a
Some of them
4
have
foot
them up
there,
too far. And
Go
we're
ahead.
like, no, you can't have it up that far.
but I agree with you 100% when you say that,
Can we
okay,
look
you're
at
making
J?
the property owner that's gonna have to
I think
pay
we're
to
already done with
fix it. but
surveys.
Jay on
already
page
not
6.
allowed on a 4
J on
foot.
page 6. The addition, the
Yeah.
modified
I know.
language
I don't want no more commercial.
Double fencing.
for the double fencing,
Okay.
yes. Talks about consensus of the building official, code enforcement officer, and additional village designee. Does that need to be defined, one, who that is? And the word "and" says that all of them have to agree, correct? Yeah,
Well, it has to be a consensus of them,
yeah.
so the majority,
But who's gonna be that additional village designee?
you.
Is that what we determined?
Justin
It just says designee of the village.
I would like to see somebody from PC be that, because
Well, that's right, would it be the chair, would it be?
it could be whoever you all elect or decide to say Andrew wants to do it.
I know
you
we,
all
we
agree.
talked about it, but, and I thought about it, does that need to be defined who? Because
Not-
are we just gonna wait to find someone and someone's in limbo and can I do this or not?
You could put there right now a PC member and that to be appointed from you, within.
Appointing, planning,
An
Planning
appointed
Commission
planning
member.
commission member?
That's the way I always like to see these type of situations done
I'm
when
okay
we're
with that.
going out on site, have a PC member there. And that's up to whoever wants to nominate and then see if,
So that would be part of our, then we'd have to change our rules and procedures, bylaws or whatever for the planning commission. We'd have to appoint that position on a yearly or whatever basis.
that's way over my head, Karen. I don't know
Talking
how you
about
would do that.
borders are, kind of a
The
thing.
borders are, yeah.
oh no.
I think it should just be the chairman.
I like the way you think.
The chair or, and not, because it's me, because I might not be here in a couple months, but
The
if it's the
ex
ex
officio.
officio, then they have insight from both boards.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Then the council's automatically
There you go.
advised.
In.
I
And we
like
can
that.
check the legal aspect of that, make sure there's no legal issues with that, but
That way it's a specific member, you don't have to have somebody who agree, it's already assigned,
yeah.
because I would not agree.
No fence for you. And that's only for double fence.
And all three
Yeah.
of them have to agree too.
Yeah,
That's not a
consensus.
2 out of 3, it's not a quorum, it's a 2, it's written here that all 3 have to agree, and honestly, I'd like to see a PC member be that third person.
And PC and board.
It makes
I
more
like that.
sense.
Yeah, I definitely don't wanna get.
So is this coming back in a month with those 2 changes?
The sharp, or the removal of the,
Everything before the village of?
yep. And then section E, number 6, removal of similar,
Oh, yeah, I already said that, sorry.
and then change of, what we just talked about, who the additional village
Yeah,
person
make
is.
it the ex officio.
And then we should be done with this, right?
Holy cow, it's only been like a year.
Is there anything else you can think of?
Did you get the word similar, Ms. Graham? Okay.
I see one thing that I just thought here, Karen.
Oh, Mike.
Fences and enclosures where it says the building code. The building codes now kick all of them, commercial, residential, and everything to the international pool and spa code. We're in the 2015 right now. But
Which
that's
page are we
gonna be
talking?
an easy one to just, it's, L on page 6.
I
They
think
used-
last time we talked about that, it was decided that we were gonna keep it, cause whatever the Michigan code is defers to whatever they're
Yes.
adopting for.
It does.
And whatever we've adopted
We
at the
used to have
village.
Appendix G, I don't know if you remember that, Justin, when you were doing some electrical on the pools, remember we had Appendix G in the code that took care of the stuff for the pools?
Yeah.
I know you remember that.
I hate pools.
They took that out of there, and they put language in a couple code cycles ago, where they removed the Appendix G and they went to the International Pool and Spa Code.
Yeah.
And the one we're in now is, I think they haven't adopted anything after the 50, I think they've gone to 21 yet.
So if we don't,
We just, by.
if we don't
by-
define the year,
No,
it's just
I-
whatever we've
By
adopted.
reference, we're gonna keep adopting that anyway,
Yeah,
so.
with leaving it this way, it'll automatically shift to the proper document.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good then.
Good?
Okay, so you're gonna scribble it out.
If everyone, after the next draft, are satisfied with this, and we would have a public hearing for it the following meeting.
That'd be December.
December, so that would be
Okay.
scheduled.
I'll wear my Santa suit.
Okay, motion to adjourn then.
Oh, second.
Okay, motion before us is to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
That's a yay.